Hello, Seiiti Arata. Let's face it, there's a problem that people will be labeling you. They will be putting you in a box, whether you like it or not. They might say that you are too vocal, or too quiet, or you're too health-conscious, or you're too indulgent. People have this need to categorize us, even though these labels are completely contradictory. Some people might think that you're a pushover. Other people might see you as a stubborn troublemaker. People might think that you are like a fitness freak, and other people might see you as somebody who only eats junk food, because they have this very small picture of you. And these are very different perceptions, isn't it? And it's happening to all of us, and we have to be aware of that and understand why. What's going on here? As humans, we label others as a way to quickly understand the world around us. It's a mental shortcut. It is a heuristic. It helps us to deal with the complexity of social interactions. However, this habit can lead us to have a very distorted or incomplete idea about the people that we are interacting with. In our everyday life, the people who you will meet will be labeling you based on their limited understanding and also their personal biases. And for you to maintain good, healthy, authentic relationships, it's very important to be proactive in managing how other people are perceiving you. The first step is to use empathy and put yourself in other people's shoes. Try to understand their perspectives, the factors that might be influencing how they are labeling you. Think about their background, their experiences, the context of the interactions, and by doing this, you might be able to anticipate potential misunderstandings and identify moments in which they might have a wrong perception of you. Let me give you an example. Imagine that my Uncle Bob sees the world through a very polarized lens, if you know what I mean. In this situation, in his mind, people have to completely agree with his ideas, or maybe they are against him. So there's no middle ground in Bob's worldview. Now, let's say I want to have an interaction with Uncle Bob. I'm going to use empathy, going to put myself in his shoes to understand how he perceives the world. And I realize that if I don't particularly subscribe to either extreme of these polarized beliefs, it's very likely that he's going to believe me to be in the opposite direction, right? It's either with him or not. And that could generate some conflict in our conversation. So what can I do? Well, I will start by finding some common ground with Bob. Even if we don't agree on everything, probably there are a few points in which our views align even a little bit. So I will be steering the conversation towards these points of agreement. And I'll be avoiding other topics that I know will generate strong disagreement. For example, if Bob starts to rant about his views, I can gently change to something else, something more neutral. Maybe there's this very tasty recipe I discovered, and I can talk about something else. And by doing this, we can do a way in which we can share positive and real experiences and interests, and we can build a connection that goes beyond this polarized worldview. The key here is to use empathy to anticipate how Bob might be thinking and perceiving and labeling me. And I'm going to be using a communication style that will help me. It's not about compromising my own beliefs or values, but rather about finding the sweet spot, the right way to have a good relationship, and that we can have a good interaction. This is not going to magically solve all the problems that we have currently in a polarized world, but by using empathy and strategic communication, I can learn to minimize unnecessary conflict and have a more positive, authentic communication with my Uncle Bob. The point is here, regardless of someone's beliefs or ideologies, they're likely to approach you with preconceived notions and a desire to label you. And by putting yourself in their shoes, understanding their perspective, you can communicate better, more effectively, and build authentic relationships, even if there is a little bit of disagreement, which is okay. Remember, the goal here is not to be criticizing the viewpoint of the other person. It's to equip you with the tools so you can deal with a wide range of interactions with all sorts of people. There will be people who are strongly opinionated on one side of the spectrum or the other, and you have to use empathy and good communication to foster understanding and maintain a connection that you want to. When you think that somebody is labeling you, or they're creating a distorted or incomplete idea, incomplete picture of you, the key here is to clarify, to provide additional context. You can use open-ended questions, encourage people to explain their thoughts. You might say something like, hey, I'm kind of curious about what brought you to that conclusion. Can you tell me a little bit more about what's on your mind, about your perspective? So that open-ended question will invite dialogue, and it gives a chance to offer insights to improve the understanding. It's a problem of understanding here. So remember, communication is an ongoing process, and correcting these misinterpretations will require patience and persistence. You can have good conversations with people who you want to keep a connection with, and it will take effort. You have to consistently demonstrate the behaviors and share information that will be aligning with who you are, your authentic self. And you have to gradually do the improvements, the fine-tuning of these labels that are generated spontaneously. So we can be proactive doing this. You can take control of your narrative by regularly communicating your values, your goals, your experiences, what you think. And this can be done in every single casual conversation. You can share relevant stories. You can be asking questions. You can, depending on the people, you can use your personal branding, your social media. You can be reinforcing the accurate picture of who you are and reduce the chances of people having an incorrect interpretation of who are you. It's very important to be aware of this. This is part of personal development, to understand that people have the tendency to label you, have to recognize that you too have that tendency. Everybody has that tendency to label other people. And by practicing this self-awareness and regularly questioning your own assumptions, you can find an open-minded way to have a good empathic communication and have a good connection with other people. In situations where you find yourself repeatedly misunderstood and mislabeled, it's important to have a more direct conversation. It's a different strategy. You can express your concern and say something like, I, statement, in which you say, I believe, I feel like there is a disconnect here about how you see myself. Can we talk about that? This is important to me. And this approach, this direct approach, can open doors to have a more collaborative dialogue and have a better understanding. Remember that while you can influence how other people perceive you, also you cannot control it, at least not completely. Some people might stick to their labels despite you being very open and clear, saying, no, that's not the case. In these situations, it's very important that you focus on your own self-awareness, your self-acceptance, and surround yourself, choose individuals who are open and who authentically want to connect with you and understand who you are and have a good connection with you. So dealing with labeling will require this combination of different skills: empathy, good communication, self-awareness, putting yourself in other people's shoes, to ask questions, to clarify the misinterpretations, and consistently share your story in an interesting way that people listen to you and understand that this is an ongoing process. It's not something that you just do once and that's it. You have to be always maintaining authentic relationships, staying true to yourself and fostering this open communication style. And then you can cultivate connections that reflect about your genuine self and also setting boundaries. If you want to know more about this, boundaries, effective communication, being assertive, there are resources you can see at arata.se/how to say no about assertiveness and good communications, and I hope it will help you.